So I just covered the true story of the cancelled Aliens animated series from the 90s, Operation Aliens, but this time around I wanted to cover a lesser known story that's also included as part of that video. The story about the Dark Horse mini-comics that came packaged with the released Aliens 90s toy line. These mini-comics featured original stories, a more campy tone, and tons of violence only a kid would love, and the best glimpse of what a Saturday morning cartoon version of Aliens could have been like. This was a series of comics that were called Alien Space Marines. They would feature a main cast of characters from the Aliens Kenner toy line: Ripley, Apone, Drake, Hicks, Bishop, and yes, totally redesigned for the toy line for better or for worse. And also Ajax, kind of a weird character that basically disguises himself as an alien, as they take on variants of the aliens featuring like gorilla aliens or bull aliens on different colonies to stop a giant alien infestation. Each of these comics featured toy accurate looks and all ended on a cliffhanger, enticing kids to get more toys and get more of the story as a result. Goddamn clever little buggers Kenner was.
I like money!
The mini-comics ran for a total of 13 issues, and I wanted to cover the story of what these mini-comics exactly were. These are usually an often forgotten about thing in the Alien community and franchise, so regardless, let's whip out our little toy flamethrowers, put on our camo pants, and take on this infestation. The story of Alien Space Marine starts out with issue 1, Desert Storm, packaged with the Bishop figure. It gives a little general summary of the storyline before the comic actually starts. It states that aliens have spread into the galaxy and Space Marines are needed to stop this alien infestation from spreading. A very kid-friendly Saturday morning take on aliens for sure. The story starts with Bishop and Sergeant Apone, who yes, him and Drake are in this squad even though they died in the Aliens film, so maybe I guess you can consider this comic kind of an alternate timeline, I'm not sure. They are investigating an alien infestation on a barren planet before they are ambushed. Apone gets captured and taken to a hive on the planet. Bishop calls in Colonel Hicks, yes the same Hicks from the movie, for backup, with the running theme in these mini-comics ending on a cliffhanger, enticing readers to purchase more figures to get more of the storyline. Overall, the story isn't too bad, but it's definitely more of a cliffhanger in the beginning of this overall storyline. The story continues in the next issue, Aliens Operation Rescue. In this issue, Colonel Hicks, who in this version has a rocket launcher and loves to make annoying computer puns, looks for Sergeant Apone with Bishop on the barren planet. An interesting plot mentioned in these mini-comics is the idea that the facehuggers will capture an animal host and the alien that comes out of that host takes on the traits of their host. So for example, if a scorpion is captured by a facehugger, the resulting alien born would be a scorpion alien, which is kind of more of an in-war explanation for why the toy line has so many variants of aliens. And honestly, personally, I don't mind this explanation, at least it gives some variety to the aliens and their overall looks. This issue is mainly featuring the scorpion alien, with Bishop basically explaining to Hicks the whole thing with variants and aliens. Though a little bit of a side note and critique, the scorpion alien looks just like the warrior alien from Aliens, the film, but still just wanted to kind of point that out as a little bit interesting contrast right there. The story continues that Bishop and Hicks find Apone in the hive and get him out of the hive. Throughout this whole rescue, Apone really loves to mention that his arm is enhanced by robotics and uses it throughout the comic. Aliens soon find the group and they're kind of ambushed and attacked by a lot of them, but soon they actually have to confront a queen, which basically ends the whole issue on a cliffhanger, if they're ever going to survive this, right? The next issue, Alien Hive War, Sergeant Apone, Hicks, and Bishop are cornered by the queen of the hive. Their situation is dire, but soon Lieutenant Ripley, yes that Ripley from the movie, comes to the rescue using fire to kill the aliens. As a result, the hive starts to collapse, but the group escapes just in time. Thinking they just succeeded in destroying the infestation on this planet, they head off to the next colony to meet up with Drake on another mission. But soon an alien appears from the rubble, hinting at the fact that this infestation wasn't exactly cleared. The next issue of the story is called Aliens Jungle Attack. The Marines land on a planet called Zevan and link up with Drake. They encounter an alien infestation of gorilla aliens, which are birthed from gorilla-like species on the planet. The group fights off a bunch of them, but then their dropship gets destroyed by an alien who detonated the warheads above, leaving the Marines stranded on the planet. As they make camp on the planet waiting for relief, Ripley gets kidnapped by some gorilla aliens, with the Marines embarking on a rescue mission to save her. The next issue is called Aliens Meltdown. Having tracked the captured Lieutenant Ripley to the treetop hive built by the gorilla aliens, Sergeant Drake rescues her from the gorilla aliens with his smart gun. Now reunited, the entire team fires on the hive, destroying it. However, they were soon ambushed and attacked by the Queen. They find themselves too low in ammo to shoot and defeat her. Fortunately though, Bishop arrives just in time with his rescue ship and scoots up the Queen in a thing called a containment cell, which yes, this ship and containment containment cell is from the toy line from Kenner. Bishop then would drop the containment cell inside of an active volcano, destroying the queen entirely. The Marines, with the infestation squashed and destroyed, decide to head back to Earth for some quick R&R, not noticing the fact that there's a single undamaged egg that they left behind and forgot to destroy. Honestly, a pretty badass issue, man. I gotta love the fact that they just dropped the queen dead ass in a volcano. Pretty crazy. The next issue of the story is called Alien Showdown. While enjoying some downtime at a Wild West themed colony, the Space Marines meet a scared rancher who comes out to tell of a mysterious creature killing his livestock. While the Marines are left to ponder this moment, soon the discovery is real. The creature is found out to be a thing called a bull alien, which arrives and destroys the rancher's vehicle, and shrugs off all the firepower that the Marines use and throw at it by attempting to kill it. But soon the creature is finally killed by Corporal Hicks, which detonates the destroyed vehicle's fuel cell with his rocket launcher, incinerating the alien. Which honestly is such a badass scene, one of my personal favorite from the comic book. Realizing the bull aliens are weak to fire, the Marines load up on flamethrowers and head out to destroy the rest of the aliens at the colony. The next issue of the story is called Alien Stampede. The Space Marines head for a settlement that has failed to respond to any kind of warnings of a xenomorph infestation, following the bull alien attack from the previous issue. Expecting trouble, sure enough, on the way down there they are attacked by a herd of bull aliens, which, can you imagine that scene being filmed for a TV series or movie? The Marines destroy and cut through the creatures with their flamethrowers and set off in pursuit of the alien bulls that fled. They soon track the rest of the aliens to a nearby ranch, where Bishop's sensors detect more than 50 creatures within. With little alternative, Lieutenant Ripley leads the Space Marines inside, expecting a vicious fight. The next issue is called Aliens Fireball. Having tracked the remaining bull aliens on the Earth colony Terraform 3 to a ranch, the Space Marines head inside to eliminate the rest of the creatures. The squad discovers a powder loader before being confronted by bull aliens and their queen. The Marines open fire with their flamethrowers, but they're all outdone with the automatic sprinkler systems as they activate and put out all the flames. They're forced to retreat outside of the compound, but soon realize that Lieutenant Ripley is no longer with them, fearing the worst. The remaining Marines are soon surrounded outside and are surrounded by bull aliens, waiting for the final strike. Then suddenly out of nowhere, Ripley appears in the power loader and joins battle against the queen and the other aliens. Such a badass moment, just like the film Aliens. The Marines soon regroup and are ready to finish off the rest of the aliens. The next issue is called Aliens Night Strike. As the Space Marines faced off against a big horde of bull aliens on Terraform 3, help arrives in the form of an attack craft under the control of an unknown pilot, which strays through the xenomorphs and slaughters them, while Lieutenant Ripley finished off the queen with her power loader and flamethrower, just like the film Aliens, which is awesome. The mysterious attack ship lands and the pilot reveals himself as Special Forces soldier codenamed ATAX, which stands for Alien Tactical Advantage Explorer. Meanwhile, Bishop is attacked by a snake alien while securing the perimeter. As the Space Marines prepare to do battle, ATAX dons his Bio Boost disguise armor, kind of in general a combat exosuit that also disguises the wearer as a xenomorph. ATAX quickly tears the attacking Snake's Marines, but then is captured by a flying queen and carries him away, ending on a massive cliffhanger. The next issue is called Alien Swarm. When the Space Marines finally catch up to ATAX at the main colony on Terraform 3, they find that he's already defeated the flying queen with the help of his Bio Boost armor. They also learn that the colonists are preparing to evacuate aboard a shuttle, and they also soon discover the reason why. The colony is under attack by a swarm of leaping mantis aliens. I can't believe I said those words out loud. The Marines rush to the shuttle launch pad to ensure all the colonists get off the planet safely. However, Lieutenant Ripley discovers that the shuttle is infested with queen facehuggers aboard, and they've already captured the host of all the colonists. After finishing up the remaining mantis aliens on the ground, the Marines set off in pursuit of the shuttle, which by this point has already taken off into outer space. The next issue is called Alien Terror Dome. In pursuit of the shuttle, the Space Marines set down on the lunar base above Terraform 3 and find the entire installation has been turned into a hive by queen facehuggers. The squad is ambushed by the creatures and a fierce firefight ensues as a result. After the firefight finishes and as the smoke settles, the queen facehuggers inside the base domes have been wiped out completely, but Lieutenant Ripley finds a lone young girl who tearfully tells him that her parents have been captured by these things called giant rhino aliens, and also been taken to the neighboring dome on the installation, which then the Marines decide to go in that direction in search of survivors. The next issue is called Aliens Ice Storm. Bishop returns from the recon mission to the alien-infested dome on Terraform 3's lunar base, which at this point has been badly damaged. At this point, returning from the mission, Bishop is already gravely injured. His left arm has been totally severed, but he reports that the rhino aliens are totally impervious to both gunfire and flame, but he also suggests another course of action to fix this mess. Bishop decided to hardwire himself into a power loader, retrofitting it with weaponry including a freeze jet blaster. which honestly is such a badass thing to say, and Bishop controlling the power loader is totally cool. Bishop then soon attacks the dome, and after shattering the roof of the dome to allow the freezing cold space exterior atmosphere inside, Bishop destroys and immobilizes the aliens with his freeze weaponry, while at the same time Atax dons his bio boost disguise armor and heads into the hive to rescue the colonists that are still in danger. Once inside the nest or hive, Atax destroys the queen, her eggs, and most of her royal guard before rescuing the cocoon colonists. The survivors, including the little girl's parents, soon reunite, and finally after this, the alien infestation on Terraform 3 and its surrounding base is finally crushed. And this in general would basically end the general overall storyline for Alien Space Marines. Now, you may be asking yourself, that was 12 issues, not 13. Well, there was one more issue in this mini-comic storyline, and the final issue of this mini-comics were actually called Aliens vs. Predator, The Ultimate Battle, basically based on the 2-pack figures released by Kenner of the same characters. And in general, it's just basically a standalone story about the idea of predators going against aliens, but has no connection to the overall Alien Space Marines storyline. Now, overall, for my thoughts on this little mini-comic run, I honestly found a lot more enjoyment in this thing than I originally expected. It kind of presented a really cool glimpse of what could have been Operation Aliens as a cartoon series. The whole variety of aliens and the reasons for their creation are cool and interesting and explained for the most part. Now for my thoughts on the main characters, aka the Marines. I thought for the most part they were fun enough and decent characters, even though there's really not much to them in terms of development or characters or really just any kind of substantial development. I think Bishop developed his sense of humor throughout the run, which was pretty nice to see, and we also learned that Drake had a bad past being raised on a prison colony, which I thought was an interesting detail I wanted to mention. Now for my thoughts on the artwork. I honestly thought the artwork was really fantastic, featuring really tons of vibrant colors and thick outlines, which honestly present that really nostalgic 90s classic comic book feel, but I really enjoy that style and I think it looks great for the comic. The dialogue that runs throughout the comic I think for the most part is decent enough, even though some of the one-liners are kind of really too cheesy for my own taste and they're just kind of straight up bad in parts. Mainly the ones from Hicks, which I think for the most part are kind of annoying in this comic run. In terms of other issues that I had with this comic to get into them, I think another issue is obviously the continuity errors with the other previously established Alien films. And like I mentioned earlier, these comics do reference the events in Aliens and Aliens, but I guess this is sort of an alternate timeline. As I said before, some characters like Capone and Drake did die in that movie, while other characters, for example like Hudson, don't even appear in this comic at all, even though they were kind of in the toy line. And the comic in general just doesn't really address any of these continuity issues, which honestly could have been explained and also created some really interesting stories. So I think it's one of the little big issues I have with this mini comic run. But hey, maybe it was too much to ask for. I mean, this was basically a kid's comic about the Aliens franchise, but still wanted to give you my thoughts on it and address the issue. Also, another big pro I like about this is simply the variety of locations in this run. You get a wide range of colonies, planets, space stations, and all this get a really nice intergalactic journey and feel to the whole comic. I also in general just like the variants of the aliens. Sure, a lot of them can be really silly and really goofy to say out loud, but I think for the most part they were pretty cool and really interesting, and seeing them in the comic how they used and attacked the main characters was always really fascinating to see. So overall, even though maybe it's the kid part of myself really saying this, I thought the aliens were really cool in this comic. Also, another pro I wanted to mention is the cliffhangers in these mini comics. Even though at their purpose, right, it's basically a cleverly disguised tactic to buy more figures in the toy line, I thought it created a very nice flow to the story and kept things on your feet, so to speak, as you really didn't know what was going to happen next as the mini comic line slowly developed and rolled out its issues. Overall, pretty good tactic. Overall, Alien Space Marines I thought was a pretty decent comic and really gave you a glimpse of what could have been a Saturday morning versions of Aliens. And overall had a lot of really cool moments and fun lines of dialogue sometimes. I don't think it's anything particularly noteworthy, and like I said, compared to some other great Alien comics, it's nothing that can stand against those. But still, overall, I thought it was a pretty decent comic run for the most part. Now in terms of availability, and if you actually want to take your time and read these Alien Space Marines comics and get your hands on them, well, the comic run for a long time was actually kind of considered rare to get their hands on it, since it was included with some action figures only and wasn't released on its own. So for a long time, it was just kind of rare to get your hands on these mini comics, until recently. For example, when NECA re-released a lot of their old Kenner's Aliens toy lines, they also included some of the old mini comics included with them, so that's another way you can get your hands on them. And also these mini comics were included in the big omnibus Aliens the Original Years Volume 1 comic book as well. So like I said, there's kind of multiple ways to get your hands on it. And you can also view some of these comics like how I did online and read the story as well thanks to some websites, which I highly recommend. And yeah, that was the kind of overall, mostly forgotten about story of the Aliens Kenners toy line in their mini comic book run that was attached with that toy line, Alien Space Marines, which was published by Dark Horse Comics. Kind of a fun and interesting look at what could have been the Aliens franchise in the early 90s. Alright, hopefully y'all liked the video, have a good day, and peace y'all.